I was reflecting on the last 3 months of this year, and basically it's been a complete full circle experience. I was in a very, very difficult place. I was going through a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, a lot of things that kind of pushed me outside of my comfort zone and forced me to grow in different ways and to really question my beliefs, question what it is that I want to do and what is right for me. And in this past week, it's been a completely different experience to where I was at. And so I was reflecting on that today. I've had such an incredible week, and it really has felt like a peak experience in terms of every single day, me feeling a very heightened state of awareness. I have achieved a lot this week. I was very productive. I felt like I was in sync. I felt consistent throughout the week in terms of feeling good, and I was just reflecting on how different that has been from the experience that I was having in January, when I was feeling low consistently and I was very low on energy and I was struggling and I was going through difficult emotions and I was just going through a lot, and it felt very different to how this past week felt. And so what I was reflecting on is how life cycles in this direction. So in January, I was going through a difficult experience, for example, also in my work life, and I actually decided to resign from my position. And what ended up happening is that I had a whole other opportunity that came up for me that I ended up going for. And in reflecting over the past 2 weeks, I've actually seen how much things have been perfectly aligned for me throughout the whole process. So when I was going through the change and when I was going through the difficulties that I was going through, I wasn't able to see what the outcome would be. I wasn't able to see what would happen on the other side of this challenge. At that moment, I knew that there usually is a higher purpose and that I need to have faith. And so that is what was keeping me grounded, and that is what was keeping me sane. And I feel like I've handled a lot of challenges that I maybe wouldn't be able to handle a few years ago in my life. And that is also how I know I've grown a lot in my life over the past few years. You know, me having the doubts and having the fear and the anxiety around the way things were playing out, I also knew on a deeper level that things would work out for the best. And this past week, I really got to experience how much my faith got me through and how much things have turned out for the better, even better than what I could have expected. And I also had a farewell party yesterday, hence the balloons behind me. And so I was able to really move through this difficult time and also celebrate this change as it's happening, because usually change is very difficult. There's a lot of uncertainty. You don't know what is waiting on the other side of that change. But if you have trust and if you hold on and, you know, just know that things will get better, then you will get to experience that low very differently to if you buy into the negativity and have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of fear and a lot of, you know, buying into the uncertainty and feeding on that fear. And what I was really kind of starting to think of as an analogy for this was our ability to grow as well, and the way nature also mirrors this. So I started thinking about how if you place a fish in a small tank, that will limit the fish's ability in terms of growth, as opposed to if you place that fish in a big tank or in the ocean. The size of that fish is going to look very different. So a shark, if you put a shark in a tank in an aquarium, the size of that shark is going to be very different to had you put that same shark in the ocean, where it has infinite space to grow. So I thought about how that ties to humans and our environments, and the environment often determines our growth and how far we can grow. And if you are in an environment or in a community that has a very limited mindset or a very limited perspective on life, then that will also limit your ability to grow. If you never expand past that specific group or that specific community, if you never experience other communities or other environments, you won't know what is outside that environment. You won't know what growth is possible for you outside of that space. If you never leave that space, you won't know what is outside of it. You won't know what is possible for you. And then I started thinking about how a tree, or a seed for a tree, if you place a seed in a small pot plant, that will limit the ability of the tree to grow, or how tall or how big it grows. And I've actually done this. I've actually planted a seed before in a small pot and in a big pot, and I saw that in the small pot it was a shorter tree versus a bigger pot plant, or if you grow it in the earth, it's going to grow much taller, much bigger, much stronger than had you placed it in a small pot. So then that got me thinking how the roots of the tree, and Evan mentioned this to me, the roots of the tree also determine how strong that tree is in a storm, and how strong that tree can hold itself. So then I started thinking about the truth of that, and how those roots in the ground, they are growing in darkness. It is dense, the ground is dense, but those roots somehow, they manage to grow and expand in that darkness. And so this was all very, very deep and philosophical for me, because I'm someone who tends to value, you know, the journey within, and I've been on this journey within in terms of exploring my internal world and watching how me exploring my internal world has affected my external world and the way that I appear to my external world in each aspect of my life. So in my relationships, in my career, in my own personal, life, I have grown in different ways in accordance with the changes that I've made and the work that I've done internally. So the extent to which you have grown internally is also the extent to which you will experience that growth externally. So if you aren't willing to look within and to see the limitations, that your environment has placed on you, that will also limit your ability to experience life differently on the external. So humans are the same as nature, because we are nature. Humans are part of nature. But we've gotten so far removed from our nature that we don't really identify with nature in the same way. And this for me was so deep and profound, because I have been connecting a lot with nature in the past few years of my life, and it has really felt like a different experience to when I wasn't aware of nature and my connection to nature. The environment in which we find ourselves will also dictate the capacity or our ability to grow and flourish and to reach new heights, the same way that shark is limited by its environment, or the tree or the roots are limited by the environment that it's placed in. The ability for us to experience a different environment is the ability for us to grow and expand beyond what would have been possible before. And so this also got me thinking to us reaching new heights and flourishing as opposed to staying small. So again, you would want to place that shark in the ocean so that it can reach its fullest potential. So in the same way, when we are limited by our environment, or when we allow ourselves to be limited by our environment by not looking for something different or experiencing something different, then we will never really know what we are capable of if we aren't challenging ourselves, if we aren't growing. We are nature, and we can look at nature and learn from nature by this example that I've given and apply that to us. So our ability to go further up in terms of our state of consciousness as well, or our ability to grow our mindset into a different way. The way the roots grow in that darkness, in that dense, dark ground, is the same way that us humans experience the cycles of reality, of life. So life is constantly going back and forth in terms of us having positive, light, happy experiences, and us experiencing challenges that require us to grow. And so I was also thinking how our capacity, just like the roots of the tree, our capacity to go deep within ourselves, into our own unseen parts, into our, maybe shadow, we could say, the shadow aspect of who we are. So Carl Jung speaks about the shadow, and he speaks about how our deep unconscious mind and our unconscious patterns are our shadow aspect. It's the things that are there but that we aren't fully aware of. So again, this is what I was speaking about in terms of going within and knowing yourself fully. So our capacity to go within, our capacity to go into the shadow or into the darkness maybe, and to look at the things that we don't like about ourselves, don't accept about ourselves, as a result of either our environment, our conditioning that we received through society, our families, our friends, school, social media, media in general, movies, our environment that we grew up in, all of that has shaped our perspective of ourselves and our capacity to grow, our ability to grow deeper into ourselves or into our shadow, and to see all of that and to accept all of that, is our ability to fully see ourselves and to fully reclaim who we are. So if we avoid those aspects of ourselves, those shadow aspects, and we don't accept and love every aspect of who we are, we will feel separation within ourselves, and that will limit our ability to grow. Because when you're in that state and you are still rejecting aspects of yourself, you won't be able to reach your fullest potential, because you'll constantly be fighting with yourself. And I have felt this on a personal experience, and that is how I've come to learn that we need to fully see ourselves, we need to fully acknowledge ourselves and accept ourselves for who we are and what is in our unconscious, patterns and behaviors. We need to be able to acknowledge those things, and our ability to do that will also determine our ability to thrive and grow and experience the other side of that cycle, of that polarity. So again, the capacity at which you are able to journey within is the capacity at which you will extend those roots into that dark, dense, uncomfortable side of you. And that will allow you to keep on growing and expanding. And as your roots go deeper within, you will thrive and flourish more externally in your life, and you will reach your fullest potential. And so this also determines how tall and strong you are as a tree, right? As I was saying. So your ability to stand in that storm, in that difficult phase in your life, your ability to have that flexibility and to sway, right? So trees in a storm, they sway. And their ability to sway and weather that storm will make them stronger, so that the next storm that comes doesn't shake them or break them, depending on how strong they are. So again, the capacity for which you can stand in that darkness or in that unconscious shadow within yourself will also determine your ability to transcend that shadow and gain more light and more growth in your life, reach higher heights. And your ability to face that challenge or that hardship or that suffering or that struggle is the same extent to which you can experience the other extreme of that polarity and benefit from that growth. Because then you lose your fear, because then you know you've weathered the worst of the worst. And I think this has also deeply resonated with me, because I've experienced a lot of struggle, a lot of suffering in my life, a lot of trauma. And I really do resonate with this, because I've experienced so much and it's made me so strong that I'm a lot less scared now of things happening to me, because I know that I can withstand an intense amount of pain and suffering, and I'm stronger because of it. And so this was also in A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and his story is amazing. And he also speaks about post-traumatic growth and basically surviving that hardship and gaining something from it, seeing the gift in the hardship and what it's actually contributed to you growing and making you stronger. So the extent to which you can endure that struggle is the extent to which you will be thriving under any circumstances, because you've already learned how to thrive under harsh conditions. This basically determines your strength and your endurance in life, and you will thrive no matter the circumstances. So again, you overcome the fear of the challenge and you build endurance. And this for me was absolutely incredible, because as far as you go into the dark, the more light you will experience. And again, I have gone through hell and back, and I've felt that if I hold on in those difficult phases, what's on the other side is an extreme amount of joy, peace, love, and happiness, if you are able to work through that darkness and grow and gain something from that experience. So the more sadness, anguish, and suffering you experience and endure, the more capacity you will have to receive the alternative of that polarity, which is the healing and the joy and the peace that comes from that. And I do believe that everything has a purpose in your life, and so everything has an opportunity in it. We just need to find it. And this for me was deeply, deeply powerful, and so I just wanted to share that. So thank you so much for watching.